We are on live to the entire world. This is what we call the pre-show, but there's only 48 seconds of pre-show left. So, and I am dressed for total holiday spirit.
I appreciate it. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. And thanks for coming back to us.
It feels nice to be wanted, so thank you for having me.
Well, I'm going to ask about that a little bit, so we'll see. And I guess we'll wait till the official show starts. And if you haven't retweeted the Twitter,
I just did.
Okay, good. That will bring in thousands and thousands of people to watch. Right now there's four on Twitter, and it's officially time to do the show. So let me see if I get everything set up here, and it starts when we play this music. From the studio in the bonus room above the garage on the north side of Cary at the foot of Mount Belzoni, this is the Triangle Talk Show.
Just cut the crap, kid. I want to know what the big talk's all about.
I don't think we should talk about this.
Then we talk all night.
You can dance during this part if you want.
Another night of hearing myself talk.
Stop me if you've heard this one.
Talk is cheap, yo.
Yeah.
With a little less talk and a lot more action.
I don't wanna talk to me.
So knock it off and quit the yickety-yak.
Let's tell it like it is and how it could be. How it was and, of course, how it should be.
Keep that motor mouth moving morning, noon, and night. If you keep on talking, baby, you know you're bound just to drive me away.
And still sequestered in that studio, I am Gary Pierce. Nanny Jen will be showing up in just a couple of minutes. And, this is episode 125. Have I got that number right? I think I did. I think I checked it out correctly. December 6th, 2020. Next Jenna-ration. Next Jenna-ration. That is such a clever title because our guest, a return guest here on the Triangle Talk Show is Jenna Wadsworth. Currently, let's see. I'm thinking still soil and water supervisor.
I am.
And formerly candidate for, and perhaps future candidate for North Carolina Agriculture Commissioner. We'll find out about that. And so I am in total holiday garb, but the Santa hat is way too hot, so it's going to go. Back to the stuff in the back. And I'll show everybody that the studio is thoroughly decorated for Christmas. I put up the tinsel, I put the Santa hat on the gnome, and we're all set up for Christmas. So at any point coming up here, Jen should just bust in. But thanks for coming back to the show, Jenna.
Thanks for having me.
I was going to also tell everybody that normally we do the boilerplate at this point, but you have to be gone by 5 o'clock, I understand.
I do. I've got one more thing, another call to hop on. Despite not being successful in our election, I've found that while things are quieter, they're not completely silent.
Yeah. You had tweeted, and this is the timing for bringing you on to this show. You had tweeted that it's awfully quiet out there now that you're not running.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I was running in one of the largest states in the country, right?
Yeah.
For almost 2 years. And
for statewide office.
Right. For statewide office and for Commissioner of Agriculture. And I worked tirelessly for about 11 to 22 hours every day, 7 days a week for almost 2 years. And so, that being said, you get a little overstimulated by all the noise and the bookings and the media interviews and the TV appearances and even the Zoom events, right? And so you're constantly surrounded by noise and people, not to mention staffers and everyone else at every hour of the day. And then after losing, a lot of that just goes away. And so it is quite an adjustment.
before that, before you started to run, that you're back to your life from before you started to run. Is that? Do you even remember your life before you started to run?
It feels so long ago. So yeah, so even though it was only just under 2 years ago before I started all of this, because I formally announced that I was running for commissioner sometime in March 2019. But I mean, you know, there's so much legwork and work that's done for months before that where you know what's going to happen. Or you like to think you know, because I don't think anyone fully understands until you actually declare that you're running what that even looks like. And so, no, my life is not anything like what it was before I got myself into this endeavor. And while I still hold office as the vice chair of the Soil and Water Conservation District Board of Supervisors, I represent Wake County, the 1.2 million people in our capital county here in North Carolina, in a role that an office I've been elected to since 2010. I was reelected in 2014 and elected again in 2018. And because I was elected in 2018 to a 4-year term, I didn't actually have to resign that seat in order to run for higher office. And even though we lost, I still hold that seat. But, you know, a lot of things about the board have changed. A lot of things about the district have changed, including other leadership and other people I serve with. The needs of constituents have changed greatly. And, you know, I think more than all that, I was running to be the person who was in charge or oversaw all soil and water districts, right, in the state. And, you know, and so some relationships are different with other soil and water supervisors now, probably.
You know a whole lot more of them.
Some for better, some for worse, throughout the state. And then my life as a whole, I was a small business owner and I still own that business, but I largely stepped away from working day to day when I decided I was going to run. And so now I'm looking for employment opportunities, but also after being a statewide candidate and being kind of in that spotlight for a while, I mean, nothing can ever, you can't go back, right? Like it's different. And then also there are a lot of people who I'm grateful for who still, you know, are counting on me to be a champion of a bunch of issues that otherwise won't have a champion because they're not going to under the current leadership. And, you know, I feel like I have a responsibility and a platform that I can use in order to usher in change or to not stay silent. And people will listen to me in a way that maybe they wouldn't listen to someone else. So,
okay.
Yeah. And that being said, hi, Jen.
Yeah, I caught in the middle of there that you're going to be looking for a job. So yeah, Jen has arrived. So Jen, I'll put up your title. And I need to push a couple of buttons here to make the Zoom thing work. I think.
In the meantime, I'll say happy holidays to you, Jen. I didn't quite get dressed up like Gary did. I didn't know. I like popped on and he had like a Santa hat and like a whole like Christmas scene behind him.
Anyway. Okay. So that's wait. I'm still working on it. Oh, Jen, we're not hearing you. So that's part of the problem. Okay, now I got all my switching set up. So, and now we'll find out if we can ever hear Jen. Otherwise, she's going to have to pantomime. This is why we try to be here before this happens, so we can.
It's also just 2020,
do
right?
all of our.
I mean, this is
yeah,
the most
this
2020
is so
problem that we have these days, right?
Yeah. Jen is going, I don't know. Everything looks fine here. Looks good leaving here. Do the audio test on the Zoom and see if Zoom thinks you're there. Makes great television. Makes even better radio. So while Jen is working on that, I will say
to say
yeah.
that sorry I'm late.
Oh, you're back.
Yes, I have my microphone back in a second. Duke is doing handles Messiah right now as a live stream, but then they're going to do it again later, or they're recording it, and you can access the recording after 10 a.m. tomorrow. And that is why I'm late. And also, happy holidays to everyone. And I will go on a rant about why it is holidays, and it's not a war on Christmas at a later time.
Okay. Happy holidays, because there's many of them going on. And Duke is doing the Messiah. She got her microphone plugged in, and she lost her earphones, so she can't hear us. Because I was going to sing the Hallelujah part. Can you hear us yet?
Are you a skilled singer?
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Can't get that low note. So the answer to that question is no, I'm not. But Jen, can you hear us yet? Because we heard you. Okay, now can we hear you? So you get either to be able to talk or to be able to listen, but not both.
Such is the curse, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure what to suggest other than reboot or something, because generally this is pretty well worked.
Imagine if we could reboot 2020. That's what I'm just over here thinking about. Like, if there was only like an on-off switch.
Yeah.
So my computer says that you can. Oh, yes.
We can hear you.
Oh, yes, we can hear you, and now it sounds like you can hear us.
Yes. Beautiful.
Yay. Okay.
I hope I'm coming in through the right mic, but at this point, I don't want to mess with it since it works.
It's adequate, and maybe even good. So you are off-site. You're back to remote. Got your shower curtain behind you.
Yep. I dressed up for the holidays. No, I'm hiding the view from behind me.
Okay. So I'll put your title up to officially announce that you're here, and say something about the music is all gone and everything. That the sitting on the side of the hill at the real mountain Okanichi. What is all that?
Hi, I'm Jen. I'm the host of NannyCast, and I hail from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, which is actually at the foot of a real mountain, Mount Okanichi.
Yeah.
I usually come in from the yellow room, but not today.
Today
not
you're
today.
Coming in from the shower curtain.
It's not a shower curtain.
I'll be the judge of that. So Jenna, I was going to start out saying that my guess is that in the hour that we've got, you would like to talk a lot about issues and things like that. And I always want to talk about the horse race and the process, and somehow between those two, we can find a happy mix. And then Jen, I'm not sure what Jen wants to talk about. So
I just want to say that North Carolina sucks, and we apparently don't want to have legal marijuana.
Right? Not just legal marijuana, but my opponent is literally someone who takes money from racist hate groups and denies that climate change is real, and has gone on record, because I wanted him on record multiple times, to the point where I wanted him to say, and he did, that he will not ever be in support of legalizing marijuana.
Yeah, I got, I engaged with a lot of voters on the topic of your race and everything. And a lot of them work in areas which are heavily dependent on big ag as it currently is. And they didn't want to upset the apple cart because they could only predict doom. And I said, listen, the apple cart's not serving everybody properly. It's time to upset it so that we can build better. Because sometimes in order to build better, you have to get rid of what exists.
Absolutely. You have to radically transform your definition of what is, right? So, I mean, clearly where we are right now is not working. I'm disheartened because I'm sad that folks have to go through another 4 years of this man's leadership, which is failing so many folks. And I think what was just really upsetting, and I'm happy to get into, like, because I think there's some really good process questions that we should talk about, because look, everybody thought that this year was going to be a blue wave. right? And it was the exact opposite of that. It was the antithesis of that, especially here in North Carolina. And there's, been so much commentary about why that's the case. I know I have plenty of thoughts on that issue. But on top of that, I mean, look, when you were talking, Jim was just alluding to big ag and the fear tactics that they invoked with some farmers who for so long have had to rely on big ag in order to make sure that they had contracts that they could, continue engaging in a livelihood they love to engage in, which is farming. They wouldn't lose land that had been in their families for generations. And so a lot of people put faith and hope and trust into big ag because there was no other option for them, again, because of a dereliction of duty on behalf of the current commissioner, not finding innovative, exciting solutions. That way people didn't have to sign on the dotted line and contract with these big producers to ensure their families' futures. Big ag, a number of different interest groups, a bunch of the commodity groups that oversaw everything from tobacco to soybeans and everything else, about 12 of them signed a negative statement against me in the press the weekend before the election. I think you'll particularly enjoy this, Jen. So I had done a Latino voter issue forum a few weeks before the election, talking about what was happening. And, y'all know that I was very passionate about what was happening to our migrant farm workers and just labor in general, and organizing rights for these folks who are marginalized and usually don't have access to healthcare. They don't have access to living wage. They don't have access to attorneys who can fight for them. They may have language barriers. They, on top of that, just like the whole immigration process in general is just incredibly screwed up and broken in this country. And then COVID-19 just further exacerbated the plight that a lot of our farm workers are undergoing, especially those in meatpacking plants who tend to contract COVID at even higher rates, outpaced rates versus the rest of the population. Anyway, so I said something along the lines of, hey, something we need to be really concerned about deals with the fact that I'm sure that there are people getting sick because even if those farm workers have access to healthcare, which is few and far between, they may have brought family members who are undocumented with them, who are too scared to seek access to treatment at hospitals because ICE is there rounding them up sometimes, or ready to run raids on these migrant camps. And arrest people or, violate any civil liberties or anything else of these folks. And I said something along the lines of, I'm sure that years from now, we're going to find out that people are dead or buried somewhere that we didn't even know about because these people lacked access to the resources to make sure that they could live a healthy life, especially during a time like COVID. While, by the way, my opponent and the Federal Secretary of Agriculture and even the CDC, it issued guidance saying that farm workers are essential employees. And as such, they are to continue reporting to work at these meat packing plants and at these big corporate farms because they're seen as essential employees. And they're supposed to continue doing that even if they've been exposed to COVID-19, as long as they are allegedly asymptomatic. So my biggest concern was, obviously, we're trying to trust these big corporate polluters, these corporate farming industries that, by the way, showed us early on in the pandemic that they weren't capable of following the rules because we saw all the outbreaks at meatpacking plants across the country. And now we're all of a sudden just going to be like, oh, okay, well, just be good, behave, do some temperature checks, provide some PPE, but we trust you. The same corporate farming organizations, by the way, that were some of the biggest donors to my opponent, right? And so follow the money. Of course, he was in support of making sure that profit margins continued to grow, no matter the human toll that was taken on the actual workers who were doing that hard work day in and day out. And so I said something on the lines of all this with context, right, at one of these Latino issue forums. And by the way, the same forum that my opponent was invited to but refused to attend. And we got a bunch of press and a number of Latino news publications throughout the state. And some of my opponent's supporters, again, because they just, dogs with bones, they just wanted to keep giving me grief. And they were upset because they had the audacity to be upset because they couldn't read the articles that we posted that were written in Spanish. And they said, this is just another example of Jenna Wadsworth keeping us from wanting to see what she's doing and not wanting to engage with us. Okay, so besides for that very privileged view on like their inability to read another language, someone suggested to them, well, why don't you just use Google Translate? So they did, and they thought they found something real spicy and sexy, and they had just assumed that Google Translate is 100% accurate, and then they took it out of context. And anyways, all of these, what I was getting to is just all of these major commodity groups and some of these farmers then tried to issue a statement saying that I was basically saying that farmers are killing and burying their farm workers in their backyards.
That's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah, exactly. And then they called for like, they're like, well, then
I mean, I feel like only a guilty conscience would hear that in that, but you go right on ahead, farmers.
Right. And I was like, how come instead of spending so much time trying to give me grief over my words, why don't you spend a little more time investing in the people who make it possible for you to continue engaging in the agricultural industry day in and day out?
I'll start at the beginning. I'm a plant-based diet person. I'm a vegetarian because I got bit by the tick that gives you the allergy to meat. And it was a lot easier to just say no more meat than to like get into the specifics of what I could eat, what I couldn't eat.
My opponent got bitten by that tick too, but you know, they bless the animal ag industry's heart. They still think that he is, you know, one with them.
So so as a result of that, I have been in spaces where vegans exist, and they like to take the cruelty tack as to why you shouldn't eat animals, farmed animals. And sure, there are some farms that raise animals in very inappropriate conditions, but there's also farms that don't. And so yes, there is possibly cruelty, but then there's also not. However, they forget about farm workers when they talk about eating vegetables. You want to talk about a cruelty-free diet, you've got to grow it yourself or find a small farm that you know treats its staff correctly. Because even if all you're doing is eating raw mango every day, you got to make sure that the people picking that raw mango were not mistreated either. This is, when people ignore human cruelty but favor concerns about, say, goose cruelty or cow cruelty, it just shows how much people just devalue themselves and the human race as a species.
Jenna, how much does the Secretary of Agriculture have to do with the farm workers? Like, I'm imagine a lot, but how does that really work out?
Yeah, not as much as, say, your Commissioner of Labor here in North Carolina, but I think that having a strong advocate who oversees our state's biggest industry that disproportionately employs farm workers in a migrant workforce is a great first step in making sure that you have an advocate who can fight for policy with one of the other members of Council of State, because the Commissioner of Agriculture, Commissioner of Labor both serve on the Council of State. It also makes a great deal of difference if you have a commissioner who can use their bully pulpit and access to press to be able to make statements talking about this, someone who can actually and who would actually go visit meat packing plants and look at the conditions that farm workers are subjected to and talk about that, someone who would lobby on behalf of the General Assembly about labor rights. And more than that, look, I mean, it was because of Commissioner Troxler and Cherie Berry, who was Commissioner of Labor, that the governor actually pulled back some of his recommendations for the protection of farm workers during COVID because neither one of them would agree to them. So, for me, part of the reason that I ran for higher office, besides for my love of agriculture, was imagining a world where we could do things better, more sustainably, more humanely, more justly. And when I was talking about cannabis policy, whether I'm talking about climate change, whether I'm talking about bridging the urban-rural divide and providing economic and technological resources to underserved areas, no matter what I was talking about, it was always about figuring out how we could do better and be better and deliver on our promise as a state to be better for our people.
And you'll have the phone number of the Labor Commissioner, and they'll probably take your call.
Yeah, well, I just, I think the most disheartening thing to me, too, is, there are so many people who started coming out of the shadows when I was running, talking about this. And I appreciate their bravery and their courage to do so, to support me and to stand by me in these issues. But I also am really worried about some of them and the retribution that some folks may face. And I don't just mean physical or monetarily or economically, but, also just emotionally and psychologically from other folks. Because, people were pretty cruel to me on the other side of the aisle in that last few weeks. The last time you all had me on, it was because I was facing attacks from QAnon and Republican trolls and the other side.
Because you had the audacity to be a little bit clever.
I know. And by the way, I have not stopped filming TikToks. I thought Jen would be happy to hear that.
I am, and I have to say, in light of the show and me going and telling people, I was like, guys, you got to see what she's doing. She is totally in touch with Gen Z. You've gotten a lot more TikTok followers.
Yeah. And I enjoy it, and it's fun. It's also now a fun way to be saucy and salty back. With just kind of that humor that apparently just some folks just unfortunately don't get. But no, so there's just so many things to kind of break down. And the other thing about the big ag piece that I think is really important for folks to know, and we're still getting data, right? Unlike a lot of other campaigns, especially after they lose, we have taken this time. I still have a couple staffers that come in. We've just finished we had already finished all thank you notes to all donors, but thank you notes to everyone who purchased merchandise. Thank you notes to everyone who endorsed me. Thank you notes to all the groups that did stuff. Thank you notes to all my volunteers and organizers who phone banked, who called voters. We're doing people who opened their doors and let me stay at their home or who went above and beyond. We're doing all of that. And a lot of times that's really hard to do after you lose, right? And you're not looking at the same future that you thought you would be. We've also done a bunch of work in collecting data and figuring out and trying to synthesize what went wrong. We're looking at how we performed, underperformed versus everyone else at the top of the slate, at the top of the ballot in every county in North Carolina. We're still waiting for demographic breakdown of data that's supposed to come later this month. And looking at how I did versus the Democrat who ran for this office 4 years ago. And looking at historical performance, which, by the way, we drastically historically outperformed any Democrat that has run for this office. And so while I may have gotten less votes than most other Democrats running statewide, I think it's important to realize that not only was I the youngest person running statewide this year, I was also the only out LGBTQ person running statewide this year, and I was unapologetic about it. I was the most progressive person running statewide. I regularly spoke out against things that were, policies decided by both parties if I felt like they were not good enough or they didn't do enough to actually help folks. I was one of the only ones subject to QAnon threats, death threats, gang rape threats, had national machines coming after me, right? And couldn't even stay in my own home until election night for the first time in over 4 weeks. And so, all of that being said, on top of the fact that every single person on staff, except for one for me, were all in high school or college.
Has that crap?
Consultants. I didn't pay for other consultants. We did everything in-house, blood, sweat, and tears. We raised less money. We also spent less money than everyone else. We probably had more money left in our fund than a lot of the other candidates. But, we had more heart than any other campaign. And so, look, I'm still going through all of that data and all that information, but what we have found is that between my opponent and some of the big ag special interest groups, we've already found that they spent upwards of $1 million against me in the last month and a half of the election.
So that makes you worth at least $1 million.
So I want to ask about the money a little bit, but before I do that, has the crap stopped? Did it stop on election night?
Most of it, but what's funny is clearly these trolls are obsessed with me. They just won't go away. I still have comments every couple days. Someone says something.
And is that on Twitter or TikTok? Where does it hit?
Everywhere. The emails have died down for the most part. I still get a few of them. Everything from our Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitter in particular, sometimes TikTok. mind blowing to me. These people clearly have nothing better to do in their lives than to attack an unsuccessful ag candidate. So
everybody needs a COVID hobby, right?
Yep. So
I think what's bothered them more is that I haven't gone away since losing. Like, I've done a number of state and national press pieces or talk shows or anything since losing, because I'm absolutely committed, like I said, to still fighting for those really big and important issues.
You need a problematic woman shirt.
I like it. Maybe I'll just design it. I'll throw it up. I'll design it. We'll use it as like a campaign fundraiser to be able to raise money for our next righteous fight.
Did your campaign have merch?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had some of the coolest merch out of like everyone. There's still some stuff that's up for grabs now that talks about cannabis, because you know how supportive I was of cannabis. We've gotten rid of most of the merchandise that was like campaign oriented, but now there are some shirts up on our bonfire, and you can find it if you go to like our website and you click on buy merch, that say Jenna Wadsworth was right. It's high time to legalize cannabis, as a giant like cannabis leaf on it, and it was like for our farmers, for our economy, for social justice. So there's still that, and so people are walking around wearing that. One of my favorite pieces of merchandise was probably one that was just like, we called it Farm Girl Proud, and it said hog, cow, chicken, corn, cotton, tobacco, and soybean farm, which is the farm like I grew up on. But yeah.
I'm looking at your website, looking for the.
Hey, Gary, if you want to get me a Hanukkah gift, I'm just saying.
And, speaking of my website, this is actually cool. And a lot of people this was not like really publicized, because we didn't find out until, I don't know, like a week before the election too. It turns out that my website is going to forever be archived and included in the archives of the Library of Congress.
Ooh.
Yeah. So because I was considered a nationally, historically significant candidate, LGBTQ candidate in this country. And so they decided to include my website in the archives. So that was pretty
Better hope there are no spelling errors or typos.
No, someone check.
You can just see somebody 200 years from now writing their thesis on spelling errors and typos in archived websites.
I try to be really careful about that stuff, because I actually, also little known fact, I also am a nationally published book editor. So that was another one of those jobs that I had before running for this office.
Okay, so
then all your semicolons are correct.
Yes.
The website is jennawadsworth.com. So
if you see something that isn't correct, it probably was not language that was updated by me. It was probably towards the end of the campaign when staff had to take over stuff.
So I'm looking for where the merch would be, but I'm not finding.
Go down. Oh, scroll down. You're almost there.
Okay.
Right there. I think there's a black.
buy merch. There we go.
Buy merch.
Okay. So let's see what we got here.
See, she's not trying to sell you merch as a primary objective. She's trying to get elected as a primary objective. Merch is going to be down the page.
I'm trying to be relatable.
Okay, so there's our legalized cannabis.
Yeah, but there's like a bunch of different colors and stuff like that too. Some of that stuff is not, so we've been trying to pull stuff off. So I don't know which, if you keep scrolling, I think you'll get to the newer.
Masks.
Got a mask.
There are masks that say wear your damn mask.
Yep.
Which I was also pretty vocal on for a while. And I wish more people would.
Yeah, that's pretty weird. Also, I noted my phone pinged me just before we started the show. Rudolph Giuliani has COVID-19.
To the great surprise of
nobody.
No one.
Absolutely nobody.
But what's just kind of amazing is the number of these high-ranking Republicans that keep getting that have gotten come down with COVID, but they don't seem to be as sick as other folks.
Well, that's because they're high-ranking Republicans. So, it would be really bad look for our nation internationally if they got too sick. So we rush in with the...
Yeah, I think that's my point is to like why do people not realize like it's not just that they're immune, like there's I mean, and I hate like that they can try to say, oh well, you don't have to take it that seriously, it was fine, I was fine,
Yeah,
it was no worse than the flu.
As somebody who had the flu, so I want to say I got the H1N1 flu a couple of years back, which happens to be the same flu as the one from 1918, and it's come back several years since, which I'm just putting out there because I've seen arguments about H1N1 flu vaccines and long-term side effects and all that, and I'm like, it's the same flu. But I was so sick, and I had a mild case. I was so sick, I thought I was going to die at one point before my fever broke. If you can avoid that, wouldn't you? I mean, I don't understand why people are in such a big rush to sit on the toilet and die of sweating.
I know. And, my opponent, other members of the state Republican Party here in North Carolina, they regularly are out at events. No one has on masks. They're all in close contact.
They have not been around enough children and caught enough diseases. That's all I'm saying. Because you can get, like, if you get sick, even with these easily survivable diseases, you kind of don't want any more than you have to after a while. And it's kind of like chocolate. The first one's good. The second one's great. The third one's still delicious. But by like the 45th one in an hour, you're done. You're over chocolate.
Well, and shouldn't we assume that the people who are anti-maskers are probably also anti-vaxxers?
It's going to be very interesting to watch them wrestle with that one.
Yeah, I think the Venn diagram is almost concentric. The reality is that a lot of people will get this. They won't even have symptoms. They may have mild symptoms. It is all over the map. But there's closing in on 300,000 people who have died in the U.S.
And death aside, there's long-term effects, even if you're asymptomatic. Long-term organ damage, even if you're asymptomatic. Yeah. I like my heart.
Yeah, lots of heart problems. Also, they found some mental impairment issues for people who have contracted the virus.
How would you tell?
Yeah. Reduced lung capacity. There were early studies out of China a couple months after since they allegedly longer than we had, they started studying people who survived the virus and saw that they had a drastic reduction in their lung capacity, no matter their age or how healthy they were beforehand. And so, there's all of these issues. I mean, so I think now there's some issues potentially that they're finding some connections to men's sexual health as a result of contracting the virus. Okay,
that's going to start scaring people.
I'm going to say I always predicted, I said, if this was a virus that made penises fall off, everybody would wear a mask and people would be following it properly. However, since this is a virus that instead of making people's penises fall off, it specifically causes death, people are treating it casually.
Yeah, and
now that it's going to make penises fall off, watch how seriously it gets taken.
Maybe the Senate will finally pass some COVID relief bills.
So, speaking of process, well, I wanted to show a couple things. This was the vote total. You got almost 2.5 million people to vote for you. Yeah. Does a number like that register? Is that like super awesome?
Yeah, it means a lot to me, and it also says to me, despite the fact that my opponent got more votes actually than the president or the governor in North Carolina, it says to me that we have a problem with how we define or support things seen as institutions in North Carolina, right? But having almost 2.5 million people vote for me also suggests that this wasn't a referendum for him, right? He fought a viable challenger, and he had to do things this year that he's never had to do before, like actually show up to virtual events, which is, saying something for someone who doesn't even have like a, smartphone or a computer, his own email address.
He doesn't?
He didn't have social media really until he was running against me. They haven't really posted anything on their social media since they won, which I think is kind of says something too, that they were only on social media because of me. And, you know, I think 2.5 million suggests that there's a lot of people who were ready for something different.
When was the last time there was a Democratic Commissioner of Agriculture?
So the last Democrat to sit in the office was Britt Cobb, who was actually one of the first people to endorse me. He was appointed into the office, and then he ran, and that's the year that Steve Troxler won. After a whole bunch of votes went missing in Carteret County, suspiciously, and were never found. And so the election actually, that's why Steve Troxler wasn't actually sworn in until February of that year, because they kept challenging it in court, and they were never able to find those missing votes. So that was how he first got elected, and it was right after Meg Scott Phipps. She was the last Democrat to be elected to the office, but, you know, she was removed.
That's a level of politics in North Carolina I don't follow. What did she get removed for?
A form of kind of trading or embezzlement, I believe.
Okay. Being bad.
And and I think maybe dealing with something with a state fair contract.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Britt Cobb, who had served as in a number of different roles in a number of different governors' administrations, and who had worked at Ag at some point, Department of Ag at some point, was nominated, and he fulfilled the unexpired term, and then he ran for the seat. And Steve Troxler had actually run, I think, and lost maybe Meg Scott Phipps before, and so then he ran again and won against Britt Cobb. But those missing votes, I mean, that's a story that still bothers a number of folks.
Do you remember what year that was? Was that the Republican wave, 2010?
That was 16 years ago.
Yeah, I was in high school, I believe.
So the 2004 election.
Okay.
No, I was in college.
And I mean, he's been getting News and Observer endorsements, including that rather strange one from this year where they said, "We really like Jenna, and she's got a lot of great ideas. Vote for Steve."
Yeah. Steve should listen to Jenna. Vote for Steve.
Yeah. Steve is not listening to Jenna.
Yeah.
Are you going to run again next year or next time?
Well, it's a 4-year seat, so it won't be up again until the next presidential year, so 2024.
I should apologize I caught myself as I said year.
No, I know what you meant. Just for listeners who, you know, because a lot of people don't, because we're not teaching civics like we should in schools. You know, I don't know, 4 years is a very long time, right?
For sure. So maybe I should phrase this differently. Did losing this race put you off of any desire to ever run again if the stars aligned?
I think I would run for something. I don't know if it's ag commissioner. Again, I just it was a pretty rough and exhausting and probably pretty emotionally and psychologically abusive road for that last month and a half of the race. And I've seen just how vehement Steve Troxler's supporters are, and the commodity groups and everyone else who is resistant to change. A lot of folks have asked me what I'm going to do next. I wish I had an answer for them. I don't still have an answer. I'm still thinking about what's next. I think I deserve that after 2 years of giving this my all. I
agree.
Hillary Clinton, I understand how she felt when she realized that the better candidate who actually would have helped people did not win. And, nasty cyber folks attacked her and her campaign and her dignity and everything she stood for. I get that. Yeah. I mean, folks are like, what are you going to do next? Are you going to run for, because my Soil and Water term is up in 2022. And People are like, are you going to run for that again in 2022? Are you going to aim higher? Are you going to run for this U.S. Senate seat, Burr's U.S. Senate seat?
Somebody needs to run for Burr's U.S. Senate seat. At least he's retiring, so I'm not as anti him as I was Tillis.
Well, look, that man should have been arrested for insider trading when we talk about Burr, along with what Kelly Loeffler down in Georgia. So justice, right? There's a lack of it amongst right now these white Republicans who are in power.
Have you told any other shows? Have you been on any other shows? Are we the first people to ask you to come back on media?
I've actually done national interviews, news interviews, not on TV, but with like USA Today and The Nation. And
have they asked you what you're going to do next?
A Pride publication, and I've done some other shows. Everyone asked me what I'm going to do next.
Okay. So we didn't break any news.
It better be put on your fuzzy socks and binge something on Netflix, because you worked hard. And you're right, you do deserve a break.
Yeah, I have familiarized myself with the term, especially in the couple weeks after the election. I did familiarize myself with the term breakfast wine. It felt so weird getting to wear like sweatpants and like leggings again, like I had no one on my team telling me I wasn't allowed to. And so, yeah, I mean, it's weird. I'm still getting asked to come speak at different political events. There's a couple groups that want me to maybe consider sitting on their board. I've been approached about applying for some positions potentially in the Biden-Harris administration. I think I've been nominated for something. And, a number of groups have come to me with job openings, boards that maybe I had been involved with or worked with in the past. And then, some folks, I gave a national press conference on Friday talking about, with the elected officials to protect America, talking about Youth Climate Day and speaking on why advocacy, especially climate advocacy, is so important, and not doing so will be absolutely detrimental to the future of agriculture and national security. And so, I've had some folks talk to me and say, would you like to maybe design your own projects in cannabis or climate change or agriculture, and we can help you find funding. So I'm just trying to figure out what's next, because I would really like to be able to make sure I can continue paying rent and putting food on the table. And after 2 years of not really working, that's, making money is not something I have done. And I've been so busy caring about everyone else. I haven't, maybe spent the time I needed to caring about myself. So I've been really, the last couple of weeks too, has also been about focusing on my health and the slew of doctor's appointments that I kept putting off during the campaign. And now trying to figure out if I'm still going to have health insurance, which I know is not a problem that just I am grappling with, but many Americans right now, who are really scared and who didn't make the income that they that they're accustomed to because of COVID-19 and this changing world. So am I going to do something again? Like I said, there's a lot of things to figure out. People want to know if I'm going to run for something in 2022, whether it's that or Congress or something else, or in 2024. And I just don't know, but I can promise you I'm not going away.
That's good.
That's good enough.
Can you use the money that is left over from the campaign? You didn't end up with debt.
So actually no debt for me. Like, I worked really hard to make sure that wouldn't happen. Student debt in real life, but no campaign debt, luckily. And I've been really good about making sure that we could still pay the staffers that I have coming in part of the time. Again, like, I know a lot of campaigns aren't good about that, and people just lose their jobs out of nowhere. And so, like I said, so we're still doing all that work, synthesizing all the data, because whether it's me or someone else who runs for this office in 4 years, I want to make sure that Democrats and a progressive champion can win this race. So I know that this information is really, really important. And not just that, no matter what I would run for or do next, I mean, I built up a massive contact network and I had one of the best digital and online presences and built a huge like email list and online following. And so we're always trying to figure out how we can cultivate that and use it for good. And you know, I wish that someone had a ton of money and just said, Jenna, what do you want to do? We will help make that a reality for you. Because I would love to do something a la Stacey Abrams-esque for North Carolina, because I think that this election showed us that the party is not capable of doing the work that needs to be done on the ground to organize and make sure that we can turn out rural folks for Democrats.
What is your relationship with the Democratic Party leadership in North Carolina right now? Because there was a time when they didn't like the TikTok thing that you did.
No, they didn't. You know, we still don't know who from the Democratic Party issued a statement basically condemning me to the paper and kind of exacerbating the situation that I went through. You know, I personally am friends with the chair. That doesn't mean that I haven't been critical of him professionally, because I think that we need some rules in our Democratic Party charter that say, hey, if you are the statewide party chair, you cannot also be running for office. Like you can't, right? Like, I mean, that's just, it should be a no-brainer. But here's the other thing is I think there should also be a salary for the person who is our state party chair. And a lot of people don't realize that the chair of the North Carolina Democratic Party, despite having a big job where you're expected to help recruit candidates, travel all around the state, make sure that the trains are on time, you're supposed to do a ton of media and national media, you don't get salaried for it. So it means that only a narrow group of individuals have the ability to run for and hold that position. And I think that means that we're not doing some of the work or prioritizing some of the things that we should if we truly want to see this party move forward. People have talked to me or asked me to run for Democratic Party chair this upcoming year in 2021 because
yes, nothing like not having any income for another couple of years.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing. Look, would I be willing to do something like that? Yeah, potentially, absolutely, as far as like running the party, but not without it being salaried.
That's it doesn't pay you to live, and you got to have some.
You know, we've got to respect work and we've got to pay for that work and that labor. And also, I mean, it's not just me. I know a whole group of young, progressive, exciting people who could make some really amazing change who are not going to consider running for party chair just by virtue of the fact that we can't afford it. And, you know, for me, I would also really shake things up. I would say, look, the precinct, while it was great in Jim Hunt's era, the eternal governor of North Carolina, the precinct is not what it used to be. So most average people don't even know what a precinct is. And it's really just, at this point, this archaic designation to know where you go to go vote, right? Or to understand how many voters are in a certain geographical region. Yeah. And so I think precinct organizing is a bit outdated and archaic and actually prevents a number of people from getting involved. And I think the way that the party plan of organization, basically the guideline, the Bible for our party, is a bit outdated. A lot of the policy doesn't reflect like progressive policy that I think is how you bring in new, diverse, and exciting voices and membership. And a lot of the infighting, I think, is unattractive to people who just want to get stuff done, right? And I would love to then take a ton of the money, like totally reimagine the budget for the party and move a bunch of it to year-round organizing from people who are locals in that area who already have a relationship with people. So that way voters are more inclined to open the door and actually honestly tell them what issues they believe are important. So that way we can fix our messaging, because the right is crushing us when it comes to messaging and sound bites. They are so much better at it than us. And they are also so much better at pipeline development and leadership building opportunities and actually financially supporting the people who they want to have run for office and putting them in front of media, putting them in front of big donors.
Does the Republican Party pay a salary to their statewide chairman?
I am hoping that that is something that people vote to make happen. there's a whole, and see, this is the other nightmare, is there's a whole like slew of rules for bringing something like that to the floor, right?
I was asking if the Republicans pay their guy.
I think so. From what I saw, yes, but I think it's I don't think it's a big sexy number, but I think it's at least something. And from what, what folks had speculated about, I think the last few chairs, because they were independently wealthy or, they were retired and had money, they generally turned around and donated that money back to the party or refused to take it and let it go into the party's general fund.
So we, having it unpaid and with that much work, we just have to have rich people do it, which is probably not what we want to happen.
Rich or retired.
Yeah.
Which means, and not always, but a lot of times that precludes people who are more modern and have a fresh take on how to do things differently in a way that actually meets the current ever-changing demands of registering folks to vote and gauging new engagement.
Yeah, we retired. I'm retired. That's how I can do this. But that makes me old and cranky. So, okay, we only have a couple more minutes with you, Jen. Do you have anything else that you were desperate to ask about?
No, not really. I think we've covered all of it.
Okay,
You want to talk any more about money?
Yeah, I was looking at the Ballotpedia, and I'm wondering if there's anything real about what I'm seeing in Ballotpedia. This is what they say about you, that you had $183,000 in contributions and about $70,000 in expenses. That it sounds like they don't know what they're talking about.
No. Look, I think ours is closer to over $200,000, which is, I know that sounds like so much money to folks. That is nothing compared to most other statewide campaigns, right? I mean, look, like I think the governor, the money, the other thing is all the money that you never will know about that goes through 527s or party groups or anything else, or super PACs that you can't really track.
The dark money.
But between Troxler, who brought in almost $500,000 in the last, in the third quarter and part of the fourth quarter against us, and he spent like every dollar basically that he raised in that third quarter.
Yeah, this is what they say about him. And again, I guess these numbers are off, but they may be relatively accurate. Contributions of a little over 500,000 and spent 468,000. So almost all.
So are you looking at third quarter? If you're looking at third quarter, the numbers track a little bit better. So if you were looking at me and you were just looking at third quarter, those numbers were probably right. But if you were looking at the whole campaign, that's absolutely not.
Yeah, what this is saying is 2020 election, January 1st, 2019 through October 17th, 2020.
I just want to point out that he's got in his list of top expenditures, he's got the USPS and a direct mail marketing service. He's spending a lot on postage.
Okay, yeah.
I spent a lot with USPS, but that was like mailing thank you notes and everything else.
Jen is big on thank you notes.
Well, this cycle, he spent a lot on his consultant, made like hundreds of thousands of dollars off of him. If you've seen his website, it was really funny when you saw how much he spent for his website. You'll particularly enjoy that if you're a nerd going through campaign finance reports. Because his actual campaign website looks like it was created by someone in the 90s who said that graphic design was their passion and who spent a little too much time on MS Paint.
Okay,
let's take a look at it.
I mean, it does.
Yeah.
That color green is isn't that one of the like web don'ts because it's just got too much contrast with other colors?
Well, plus his logo is like ketchup and mustard, or the same as McDonald's colors, the yellow and the red.
Yeah, I'm no artist, but I could do a better tractor than that.
You know what, though? Let him be. He's the opponent. Let him make mistakes.
They spent a lot of money on yard signs. I just feel like yard signs are just so bad for the environment. I just couldn't. And also they're just such a nightmare to deal with the distribution of. And then also afterwards, technically your campaign could be fined if they haven't been picked up. And like if you have people who are just willy-nilly putting yard signs all over the place, you don't know where they are. So yeah, I mean, but again, I just refused to do yard signs.
That's probably the better choice. I've always thought that yard signs were weird. They're only put out by people who already are going to vote for somebody. I've never met a single person who's been swayed by a yard sign in my life. And all that happens is people get upset when each other's signs get vandalized.
And they're a huge cost, like I said, and not even just to mention the distribution and dissemination of them. They're a huge cost, and they're also a huge environmental cost. And the whole thing about, I mean, we had so many people, God, if we just, the amount of time that we wasted having to reply back to people who just wanted a yard sign, and trying to then tell people, but you know what? Well, no, we don't have yard signs, but you know what actually would make a very big difference in this race if you actually want to support Jenna is one, you can just go make a donation online. If you make a donation, we'll send you a bumper sticker so you get something. Or, you know, buy merchandise. Or here's the thing that would have been a really big deal. Why don't you volunteer for even 1 hour to make targeted phone banking calls? Like those things are far more useful to candidates than a yard sign. And so all the time people are like, but I want to do yard signs. I'm like, that is just not enough. If you actually want to help a candidate, donate to them. And if you can't donate, then donate an hour, even an hour of time making targeted phone banking calls can make the biggest difference. Yard signs to me, I mean, I'm going to say this now because after the election, they're just lazy. They're a frankly incredibly lazy way to show your support for a candidate, that don't really do anything and actually put a giant burden on the candidate and the campaign. And, you know, here's my other thing. People who other Democrats on the slate running statewide who spent all that money and time disseminating yard signs, a lot of them didn't win either. So yard signs aren't going to make or break you. They're not what's going to have you win an election. And, you know, for the first time, the Biden campaign, a presidential campaign, was trying to make, for a lot of yard signs, they're like, if you want a yard sign, sure, but you need to pay for it. I mean, I was hoping that would start to change the kind of mindset of folks like, yeah, these are not cheap. These are not free. Like there is a cost associated with yard signs.
It's something you do because we've always done it that way.
And I recommended to people who wanted yard signs for candidates that didn't have yard signs to make their own. If you really want to stick something in your yard, go arts and crafts it, and then go buy a t-shirt. Because then if you're wearing the t-shirt, people can have conversations with you and you can talk about your candidate.
Yep.
You don't really support a candidate unless you're willing to have a conversation about that candidate. And if you're not, you don't support your candidate. So don't play at it by putting out a sign.
Right. I love the people who sent me pictures of homemade yard signs. I mean, for me, my favorite were actually the Sunrise Movement, because I was the only statewide candidate endorsed by the Sunrise Movement. And they actually, so they didn't coordinate with us. We didn't know until like they posted pictures. So, you know, but the legality I know is still questionable of this. They actually painted, like these groups of kids, a lot of them high school, college kids, painted banners and dropped banners from highways all across North Carolina that said, vote Jenna Wadsworth, or vote Wadsworth for our farmers, or vote Jenna Wadsworth for, you know, to address climate change, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I went out to a protest with those guys when Tillis was showing up at, actually Tillis and Cunningham, both at the WNCN studios for one of their debates. They set up a protest across the street. And that's the first time I heard about them. I don't want to kick you out, but your coach has turned into a pumpkin. So,
yeah, the only other thing I will say about outside money is for folks to look at the groups that have created PACs or 527s. So, you know, that's the thing. Like right now, I'm in search of a new insurance company because my insurance company, Farm Bureau, helped create a PAC that basically raised and spent over $200,000 against me as well. Also raising money from Smithfield Foods. And so I told my daddy, if I ever find any frozen Smithfield sausage in the chest freezer, that we are done. I was like, this is it. This is, if you love me, like,
It's hard to stay away from those guys.
Let's talk about the way Smithfield treats its farm workers too. Like that's
the environment,
awesome.
Farm workers, they're farmers they contract with. I mean, they are a plague. I have no problem saying it. Yeah, Smithfield Farm Bureau. I mean, a whole bunch of other groups. The Port Council just raised and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars against me. And what's funnier is they sent out mailers to folks in rural places in North Carolina that were in support of Troxler, that talked about there are too many of these big city liberals controlling politics. And then, yeah, just go ahead. You know, our minds all went to the same place then. And then they also said that some of, like, it talked about 3 of kind of his top issues that he would champion for rural folks, including talking about rural broadband access and rural healthcare, which, by the way, were 2 of my top issues, and I didn't hear anything out of that man's mouth about. But yet, you know, and I got grief from his supporters saying, you don't have any control over the internet or our healthcare. But those were 2 of the 3 top issues that they said that he would help champion for rural folks. So folks were duped.
Yeah, and then nothing. All right, I'm going to ask to have you back again sometime soon. I would love to spend more time in the School of North Carolina Politics with Jenna, because you don't limit yourself just to the agriculture domain. You look all around everything that's going on. And
since she's wearing her fuzzy socks and binging Netflix now in her cool down period, have her back on for the portion of the show where we talk about what we're watching.
Yeah.
Don't just bring her back for serious stuff. Bring her back for fun stuff.
Oh yeah, well,
she's a whole person.
I can be fun.
She's a whole person. She's got multiple dimensions.
Well, actually, if you recall the last show, she was going to be on for like 20 minutes, and she ended up here for 2 hours. So she's only going away now because she's got something else she's got to do. Otherwise, just join us to talk about anything.
Well, thank you all for having me. Like I said to Gary early on, it is nice to be wanted. And so I wish everyone a happy holiday season. And winter solstice. And thank you so much for having me and let's chat a little bit about the state of things.
Speaking of which, that show is going away. NC Spin is going away. The State of Things on WUNC is going on radio is going away. NC Spin on UNC television is going away. We're going to be the only political show left. So maybe not, but I'm expecting our ratings to go way up when those shows disappear. Okay, Jenna, off you go.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
And we will we'll check in with you again soon. And
on that transition, I would like to set up a straw man, which I will then attack, about Happy Holidays, because it comes up every year.
Okay, hang on. Let me click this thing. Is that working? Okay, yeah.
And I feel the need to cover 2 of my usual holiday rants, and I'll do it now, and then we don't have to talk about it ever again. Oh, cool.
Oh, I'm turning you purple.
Computer thing.
Why am
This is great.
Oh, I know why you're turning
So for those of you
purple.
on the audio-only podcast, Gary just did a glitchy computer thing, and it was, whoa!
And your shower curtain fell down.
It did. Okay, so here's my rant, because my backdrop doesn't matter. First of all, for those people who are all butthurt about it being Happy Holidays, listen, you don't have to celebrate all of them, but I guarantee you that in this season you celebrate at least 2, so that makes it plural. So shut up. If you celebrate Christmas and New Year's, that's holidays. If you celebrate Hanukkah and New Year's, that's holidays. If you celebrate Festivus or Winter Solstice and New Year's, that's holidays. So shut up about it.
Okay.
It's not a war on Christmas. It's an inclusion of New Year's because you forgot about it. Second rant. Now I've forgotten what my second rant is.
I'll let you think about that, and repair your background. I'll put myself full screen here so you can go do that, and I'll have to think about something that I want to talk about. I'll stick with the holidays thing. I don't understand. I really do understand the people that are doing the War on Christmas whining, although I haven't heard very much of it this year because there's just been so much other stuff that's been going on. But it's really selfish to whine and complain about, what is all of this war on Christmas? Can I make it? No, that's not going to work.
For those of you listening to the audio-only podcast, Gary has once again pushed a button that has done a weird computer thing, and he is now in infinite mirror land.
This will fix it. There we go. Boom. Repaired.
Yes, my backdrop is repaired.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to wiggle into frame because Gary has me kind of like out of center. Or maybe I'm out of center.
You're close enough. Christianity is not in any danger of disappearing. Christmas is not in any danger of disappearing. If someone wants to be more inclusive,
somebody wants to be so oppressed, man. They want to have some adversity in their life. They're searching real hard for it.
Yeah. Quit your whining.
So my other usual holiday rant has to do with the song "Baby It's Cold Outside." That comes up every year with concerns about consent.
Yeah,
and
I've seen a long post about that, just not dissecting it very studiously, not taking one side or the other all that hard.
Well, I'm going to take a side, and the side goes like this. The song came out and people like to say it's of its time. The song came out at a time when my grandmother was alive. She has since passed, but she and I had a great conversation about it. In the middle of the song, there is a line from the woman singing to the man, and she says, "The answer is no." My grandmother has informed me that at that time, anybody who pushed beyond that clear statement would have been rude of its time. So even of its time, it was an inappropriate song. The song should have ended at "the answer is no," and he should have said, "Well, okay then, I tried."
I think the article that I read and do not have anywhere close to total recall, but it addressed practically line by line everything going in there, and what they said about that line, "The answer is no," is that in relationships in that era, the answer always had to start out being no.
But it wasn't starting out. The answer is no in mid-song. She said no. She said a soft no for the first half of the song. This is not how and yes, my grandmother did say you had to give a, "Oh, I'm not like that," kind of soft no. But when you went blunt, that was it.
Yeah, and I don't remember the lyrics quite well enough to know exactly what they said and exactly where it happened.
Yeah, no, the answer is no comes mid-song. The fact that there is a second half of the song after that point, my grandmother said was very inappropriate and rude. And she said that even in its time, that would have been a very inappropriate and rude song. However, I get that it's cute and jingly and catchy. There have been people who have rewritten lyrics to be more appropriate, so you don't have to give up the cute musicality of it. The song is toxic and problematic. It just is. Even historically, contextually, it was. There's, it's okay. It's okay to like tap your toe to unfortunate things, but now we've got alternatives. Now you can tap your same toe to the same notes that won't be unfortunate if you pick any of the filked remakes.
Let's see what I can find here. Okay, this will get us the monetization /takedown, but I'll fight it because...
Oh, you don't have to play it. You can just pull up the lyrics and notice where the lines are.
Well, we can play it because we're talking about it. Okay, this is a highly produced music video with Anita Menzel and Michael Bublé, so it's a remake of the old original. I don't know which way it's going to go then. This is just the first thing that came up in my Google search.
Are we sexualizing children? Why are we sexualizing children? So for those of you on the audio-only podcast, he has pulled up the music video
Baby, it's cold outside.
from Michael Bublé and Idina Menzel with
Baby, it's cold
children.
outside.
This evening has been
Hoping that you dropped in.
very nice.
I'll hold your hands. They're
And while
just
you are
like
hearing
mine.
them sing it, they are having children lip sing it.
Yeah. And they're dressed in period 30s period costumes.
Listen,
She's kind of got a flapper dress on. He's got a tux.
beautiful. Please don't hurry.
Maybe just a soda pop.
Put some records.
Okay, so yeah, they've changed the lyrics a little bit.
Well, because they're children.
To be kid-like. So that is not taking us where I wanted to go. Let's see what else is out there.
See, like I said, they're redoing the song to make it less problematic. It's okay to tap your toe to a less problematic version. Just do not die on the hill of the more problematic version, because you will die. Or, go ahead, die on that hill, because it's an indefensible position.
YouTube has gotten very hard to search. Not YouTube, Google. They've crapped up their search results a lot. Okay, so this is the Dean Martin version. This would be original.
But baby, it's cold outside.
Got to go
But
away.
baby, it's cold outside.
So this is what I would call the of
These
its
are the soft nose.
yeah, the period sort of requisite can't have to say no.
Yeah, it's a soft no. And
So-
anybody who's ever been in sales knows that a soft no can be pushed past.
Yeah. Okay, let's see where we go from here.
This evening has
Been hoping that you drop in.
very nice.
I'll hold your hands, they're just like ice.
Mother will start to
Beautiful, what's your
So now he's pushed past her soft no, and she's starting to give excuses
listen to the
that
fire.
he will understand where her no is coming from.
And where are you saying that it's coming from? Is it what she wants or what she believes society wants her to do or doesn't want her to do?
Well, given the fact that this was a married couple who was making this song, and they were writing this song in order to be comedic, nobody knows, because this married couple had been married for so long that they weren't dating in this time period anyway.
Okay.
Beautiful, please don't
maybe just a half a drink.
put some records on while I pour.
So what she said, maybe just a half a drink more. What's happening here?
She has acquiesced to his nagging.
And this is against her better judgment, or where she would really like to go if she felt it would be appropriate to do that.
So, let me
Or can
bring
we
up
tell?
my grandmother's other point. In this song, we are led to believe that it is just the two of them privately at his house, which my grandmother has informed me would not happen anyway. But if it was just the two of them, she said all pretense dropped, because who are you performing for? If you want to stay and have sex, you stayed and had sex. She said people had sex, plenty of sex in the 20s. It happened all the time. The fact that we are horny is not new.
All right.
And if there wasn't anybody to perform for, you didn't perform for anybody. So the fact that this whole song is a big ball of makes no sense.
This came from a movie. Was it in a movie?
No, it was a couple, and they wrote the song to amuse their friends.
Oh yeah, I'm remembering the story now. Yeah, it initially was never recorded. They just did it at parties.
Yeah. And they weren't dating in this time period. She said they got a lot of it wrong, because this conversation, she said, wouldn't, as somebody who was dating in the time period, would never have happened. It just wouldn't. You would go over to the person's house and somebody would be wanting you, your chaperone would be wanting you to leave. And you would give these excuses to get your chaperone to stay for half a drink more, but you wouldn't stay indefinitely. And the chaperone would ultimately drag you away. But in this case, there is no chaperone. It's a duet. And so you wouldn't perform. You'd be like, hey, this is you and me by ourselves, baby. Forget about music and records. Why are you still wearing clothes?
So, yeah, comparing my life to movies and television life, yeah, my life was more like, what do we want to do? And movies and television life was all about the flirting and, you know, I'm trying to remember what I'm trying to say here.
My grandmother just said that this song would absolutely. She said, I see fully the comedy in it, because this song was intended as a comedy. She said she fully sees the comedy in it because it's so unrealistic. You have to laugh. Unfortunately, people have been treating it and responding to it as if it's realistic. We're like, well, you have to remember at the time, there would have been 3 people minimum in that room.
Yeah. Outside of my, I never talked to my grandmother about it. Outside of my lived experience, I want to get to the hard no part here. So
okay, sure.
We're 37 seconds into 2:21.
Baby, it's bad out there.
Say what's in this
No
drink?
cabs to be had out there.
Now, is he at her place or is she at his place?
She's at his place, which my grandmother again had many things to say about, because an unaccompanied woman at a dude's place by herself, even if she went home, even if she went through all these motions, went home and didn't have sex, everybody in town would say, of course you did. That's what a single woman being by themselves at a guy's house would be. And there's no reputation to protect here.
Okay. I guess I always misunderstood, because I thought he was kind of whining. He didn't want to go out in the cold.
No, she wants to leave.
Okay.
And he wants her to stay. That's why in the beginning she says, I really can't stay.
Okay. Yeah. I guess I didn't pay attention to that. Let's look for the hard no. We're at 44 seconds.
Your eyes are like starlight now. I'll take your hat, your hair looks swell.
Say no, no.
Mind if I...
Is that
That's
she
not
says,
it. That's
yeah,
not
that's,
it.
That's I ought to say no.
Yep. We'll get to the answer. She says the answer is no in those words.
At least I'm gonna say that I tried.
What's the sense of hurting my pride?
really can't
Oh,
stay.
baby, don't hold out. Baby, it's cold outside.
Here in the music bridge. So she was agreeing with him when the but it's cold outside line. That's leading him on.
Not necessarily. First of all, this is, now that we've addressed that it is outside the bounds of anything realistic, who knows?
Okay.
It's somebody's fantasy idea, and I don't know what was going on in their brain.
All right. So we're at 1:13.
We must go.
Baby, it's cold outside.
The answer is no.
Baby,
Okay, well, there it is. Okay. There's the smoking gun.
Yep.
There's the evidence that so far Trump has not yet been able to produce about the election.
The answer
We
is
want
no.
hard evidence like that. All right.
But how many more minutes are left on the song?
We're
There's still more song. This is what makes the song a problem.
and let's see what happens there. Just take a look. This is we're at 1:19 out of 2:21, so a little more than half has gone by. There's no
And the
animation
song
here.
keeps going, and it shouldn't. Even of its time. And this is what makes it not just ridiculous comedic fantasy, but at this point, my grandmother was just very mad. And she
Okay.
was like, what is wrong with these people? Even if they had no idea how dating works, they should understand that line. Because after that line, the dude gets beat up
So
by every man related to the woman. She's not a slut anymore. He's now a rapist.
let's listen to her no again and then see what comes next.
it's cold outside.
The answer is no.
Baby, it's cold outside.
The welcome has
How
been
lucky that you
so
dropped in.
nice and warm.
Look out the window at the
My
storm.
sister will be suspicious.
Gosh, your lips look
My brother
She's pushed he's pushed her back into excuses
That's
when
'cause
she
that's-
needs none.
I mean, there's, and by the way, women still go to, it's not really excuses, it's reasons. They'll say, no, the date is over, and a guy will, or they'll say, I don't want to date, this is my favorite, I don't want to date you anymore, and the guy will say, why? well, because I don't want to date you anymore. But women feel compelled to give logical reasons, and then the guys argue back against the logical reasons. You know, well, I didn't feel we had a click. Well, you didn't give me a chance. You know, it is the thing that the person who is aware that they are in the less powerful position does, because they're trying to convince the person in the more powerful position to think logically about the situation and go, yeah, okay, that's valid. You're right. That is a good reason. I approve your decision. You may go. But it's, you know, it's something a supplicant would do. And why would somebody feel that they're a supplicant? Because they're in a position of less power. And God, I love equality. I'm a feminist to the core, but realistically on a gender dimorphic role, which means, or a sexual dimorphic role, which means if you look at these sexes and you just look at just biological statistics, dudes are bigger than women.
Mostly,
you know, taken on a population level. And so that means that if a dude sits on a woman, like I'm putting my butt on you and holding you to the ground, the woman is pinned.
Yeah.
So we are aware that we are, you know, that we might have spending power that's increasing, and we might definitely have more power in the fashion world because more designers are designing to us. But when shit hits the fan, if you make a dude mad and he sits on you, you're stuck.
Yeah.
And we know that.
I have dated one woman who was as tall as I was, but she wasn't as strong as I was.
Yeah. So this is why women tend to go to reasons in a supplicant position, because there's a dude standing in between you and the door. And all of a sudden, it's not cute and he's not an equal. All of a sudden, there is a gorilla standing in between you and the door, and you want to make it out the door uncrushed.
Yep. Okay, let's see what else happens after the answer is no.
Waves upon the tropical shore.
My maiden aunt's mind is
Gosh, your lips are
but maybe
delicious.
just a cigarette.
Never such a blizzard before.
Gotta get
But
home.
baby, you'd freeze out there.
Say, lend me a coat.
It's up to your knees out there.
You've really been
I
great.
thrill when you touch my
But
hair.
don't you see?
How can you do this thing to
There's
me?
bound to be talk tomorrow.
Think of my lifelong
At least
sorrow.
there will be plenty implied.
If you got pneumonia and
I
die,
really can't
get
stay.
over that old doubt.
Wait,
baby.
this is the first time. Back it up. Did he just say, think of how miserable my life would be if you got pneumonia and died?
There's bound to be talk tomorrow.
Think of my lifelong
At least
sorrow.
there will be plenty implied.
If you got pneumonia and
I
died,
really can't.
Think of my lifelong sorrow if you caught pneumonia and died. Listen, son, you're not the one in the worst position there. If she caught pneumonia and died, she'd be dead. Like, that's worse. Shut up.
Okay.
get over that.
It's actually a little bit hard to hear her part because this isn't a pure duet. It's one guy and a chorus of women. And their part is not as distinct and clear. They could find a better duet to play, but this is what came out.
Old doubt.
Plus, Dean Martin is just a dirtbag. I think I can say that.
Baby, it's cold. Baby, it's cold outside.
Okay. I'll stand convinced that little part right in the middle, the answer is no. That's
the point at
definitive.
which she stops being a loose woman and he starts being a rapist. Because regardless, as my grandmother says, if this scenario had gone down the way that the song is trying to portray the scenarios have gone down, and again, I will remind you, it was written by a couple that had been married so long they were not dating in this era in which they wrote the song, so they did not know what dating culture was. In that era, they were related. Their dating culture came from an earlier time. Regardless of whether or not they touched one another, kissed, or anything, when she went home in that scenario, sex would have been assumed to take place. Period.
By everybody who knew.
Yeah, because
That she'd
she was
been there.
alone in a dude's house by herself. Therefore, they must be fornicating like bunnies.
Okay.
And then all she could say is, "I told him the answer was no, and he kept me there." And at that point, his ass is in the ER because he's beaten up. Like, no guy would risk that. And if guys nowadays think that their false rape allegations are a problem, boy, you glad you're not dating in the 20s.
It may just be my life experience. I'm not going to say that my life experience is representative of all guys, but this is outside of my life experience. I'm happy to hear it. Cindy and I haven't talked about stuff like this. We didn't have to. We knew where we each stood pretty quickly once we started dating.
Yeah. Mutual attraction is great, and it's also bloody obvious.
Yeah. She probably would tell you that it took me a while. Just because I didn't, I'm the kind of guy that does not push.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. It's fair, and it's the respectful way to go. And as your life has attested, and the people I work for can say, if you take too long, eventually you get whacked upside the head with the glue stick. And and so you can take that as one of two ways. One way is you can go, oh, I screwed up. Or you can go, oh my God, I'm so desirable that this person left societally prescribed gender roles, broke those gender roles, and really came for me. Hell yeah, I'm sexy. And I recommend that people choose the latter.
Yeah, worked out pretty well. The best example of that from our life, Cindy and mine, is that she is the one who said, "Are we going to get married or what?"
Yeah. See, that should have had you thumbing your suspenders for a couple of years, because you're like, I'm so desirable that she proposed.
Yeah, I mean, I had some really good reasons for not proposing for a long time. We were dating for 5 years, I think. All of our friends were going, "What's taking these guys so long?" And I knew why I had gotten out of relationships in the past. And I wanted to make sure that wasn't going to happen again, because I felt terrible about them. And after dating for 5 years, it was like, I think I can start to risk this. And now, having been in a relationship with her for almost 30 years, yeah, it seems to have worked out okay. Well, that was fun.
Yeah, those are my 2 holiday season rants. I don't want anybody to try and defend the original Baby It's Cold Outside. It's ridiculous nonsense. There's better versions. Just go with the better versions. I get your nostalgia. Your nostalgia is for the tune and not for the lyrics, because this is probably the first time anybody's called your attention to those lyrics. So go with the better versions that have the same tune. And then happy holidays. Don't forget about New Year's. New Year's deserves to be happy too. But if you want to have a crappy New Year's, I will wish you only a happy whatever you celebrate and a crappy New Year. I will separate them out for you.
So I wonder, can you tell which of these is a updated version?
I can't. There was a great list that was put out by one of the listicle sites, possibly BuzzFeed, that had all of the updated ones and then described in what way they were updated. I know for sure there's one that's really cute, and it's consent focused. And there's one where they reversed the genders, and you got to hear the guy having an authentic modern guy reaction where he's like, "Did you just spike my drink? What the hell are you doing spiking my drink?" My favorite one is it's like the Idina Menzel one that we listened to first. They just cleaned it up a little bit. Just a little bit.
Let's see. What could I search for? Okay. Non-offensive version. Let's see who's doing that. I don't know who these people are. Lindy Eliza.
Oh, there it is. Consent version down. The second one down. And then there's the Me Too redo. The consent version is great because she says it's cold outside, and then the whole rest of the song, which has the same tune, is all about ways to not freeze to death. And that's it.
Can't stay.
Oh, baby, I'm fine with that.
I've gotta go away.
Baby, I'm cool with that.
These guys give us a takedown. I'll be mad.
You get home
So
safe.
very nice. night.
I'm glad you had a real good
My
time.
mother will start to worry.
We'll call her so she knows that you're
My
coming.
father will be pacing the floor.
Better get your car
But
humming.
really, I'd better scurry.
No rush.
Should I use the front or back door?
Well, which one are you pulling
The
towards
neighbors
more?
might think
That you're a real nice girl.
Say, what's in this drink?
Pomegranate LaCroix.
I wish I knew how
Maybe I can help
to
you
break
out.
this spell.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I ought to say no, no, no.
Well, you
sir.
reserve the right to say no.
At least I'm gonna say that I tried.
You reserve the right to say
I
no.
really can't stay.
Well, you don't have to. Maybe it's cold outside.
I've gotta get home.
Do you know how to get there from here?
Say, where is my coat?
Well, I'll go and grab it, my dear.
You've really been
We'll
grand.
have to do this
Yes,
again.
I agree.
How about the Cheesecake Factory?
We're bound to be talking tomorrow.
And that is how a date should
Well,
end.
at
With the
least
next
I've
date already in the
said
bag.
A
my
sandwich,
bye.
pneumonia, and
I'll be on my way.
Thanks for a great night.
Baby, it's cold outside.
It's the same
See you
tune.
tomorrow.
You can tap your toes to the exact same tune.
Oh, and then she's gone. But it's, well, let's see, it's not snowing outside anyway.
No, because they're in Hawaii. But yeah, it's the exact same tune. It's not so. I don't understand when people want to die on the hill of the original. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I saw. It looks like some radio stations are not playing it, but some still
No,
are.
because they know better. When you know better, you do better.
All right.
Again, I will also add the original version. Not only was it not recorded, but it wasn't even popular. You know, it amused people at parties, but nobody wanted it in a massive scale because, again, they're playing to a culture that's going, what are you on about? That is a ridiculous. Who wrote these lyrics? It's crazy. And they had to wait until all those people sort of faded for other people to come in and go, oh, yeah, catchy tune. I like it.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if I can give an honest appraisal of what I thought about it for a long time. It caught me by some surprise when I started to hear the criticism a few years ago. So I clearly thought it was just a cute song. I can't tell you if I ever caught anything from the middle of it that said, it's a cute song, but I see some problems. I don't know that I ever saw the problems myself. Till they pop up.
I mean, I also used to tap my toes to it, and then one day I was tapping. So I'm Jewish, and my family does not listen to Christmas music because that is, you know, we listen to Moshe Oish's Hanukkah remix, which is. Those of you who don't like Christmas music, let me tell you, Christmas music is at least better. But one day I happened to be playing this around my grandmother because I needed a break from Moshe Oisha. And my grandmother was like, I'm sorry, what? And I was like, it's a fun song. And she's like, absolutely, it is not a fun song. Do you hear what they're saying? And at that moment I went, you know, I never actually listened to the lyrics now that you mention it. No.
Which happens with a lot of songs. Although this one, it was easy enough to listen to and hear what everybody was singing. Sometimes just there's no way you can get it. Is this the Moshe Oisha that you were talking about? Oisha?
I don't know because I've never seen it spelled.
But it's music from somebody, right?
Yes, yeah. My mom has a cassette tape of it, so that is how old it really is. I don't know if it hasn't been. That is possible. Moshe Oisha over there, the theater actor.
Let's find out if this is what you're talking about.
Yep, that does seem very much like the guy.
So this is holiday music for your family.
Not this particular one. No, there's a Hanukkah cassette tape, and if it has not been digitized, we do not need to digitize it. We can just go ahead and call that, saving humanity, one small act at a time.
Okay.
My mom has threatened multiple occasions to play Oisha Oisha Hanukkah music at me if I did not A, do my homework, B, study for a test, clean my room. It's used as a torture device in my family, as well as a celebration device. It's not exactly good.
One more try.
And in this, those who are listening to this get.
This is Cantor Moisha Oisher Happy Hanukkah.
My name is Shoshana Oisher.
It's taking forever.
Yep. There we go.
I want to slip my wrist.
I apologize, listeners. I apologize for sending Gary down this rabbit hole. Please burn all copies of this podcast.
I want to slip my wrist listening to this. There's nothing happy about this.
The best part is most klezmer music, if you listen to its lyrics, they're really, really joyous about they have a potato and an onion, because it comes from a very impoverished peoples living in a very inhospitable agricultural climate.
So is that klezmer? Is that technically klezmer, or is it?
No, that was not klezmer.
It has elements.
Yeah. A lot of Jewish music has elements of klezmer in it, because the Jewish diaspora went to two places, one of them being Spain and the other one being Eastern Europe, which is where they were very, very poor in an area not given well to agriculture. And that's where klezmer came out of, where they desired to take their instruments and try and sing as joyously as they could about the rewards that they felt that they had gotten, like, I got to keep a bottle of milk from my landlord's cow today to go with my potato. The thing where people get shoved up on a chair and tossed around at Jewish ceremonies, that's usually goes with a song that's very klezmer. And we, in my family, irreligiously joke about, instead of the words that it should be there, we go, I have a potato, I have a potato, I have a potato, and I can eat it. Oh yes, I'm eating good. Oh yes, I'm eating good. Eating my potato. Now I don't have to starve.
Okay, that's that song I'm familiar with. Even the way you just sang it.
Yep.
Okay, pick one here. Oops. As I turned you purple.
None of them. Please do not subject your listeners to klezmer.
Just a little bit. Do you want the wedding song?
Anything, because they're all going to be similar.
Okay, see what happens here. There's 53
minutes. For those on the audio-only podcast, the fourth option down says the soul of Jewish music. And while I hate it, it is, in fact, the soul of Jewish music.
This is the Mazel Tov wedding songs?
Yeah, so that's going to be I Have a Potato. Go with the other one that you were picking.
No, I want to hear this.
This is called klezmer best Jewish music.
Clarinet and violin. There might not be any singing here. This may be just instrumental.
Yep.
It's the new theme song for the Jen and Gary show.
Aren't you just picturing harsh, cold winter nights and frying your last onion and looking forward to being hungry the very next day? That is what that music makes me think of. And pogroms. Don't forget about the pogroms, which were state-sponsored genocide acts against Jews before the Holocaust made it cool.
Keep pushing the purpleized button, sorry. This looks like oh, now I can't remember the name of the group. Pan something jukebox.
Trans-Siberian Orchestra?
No, it's a modern group that plays sort of modern songs in the style of the 40s and 50s.
Oh, no, I'm not familiar with them as a group.
There's a microphone. Maybe somebody will get up and sing in a minute.
So for those in the audio-only podcast, Gary has found himself down a YouTube rabbit hole, as we all have done before.
The Cash Hour Klezmer Band.
Listen, it is not Hanukkah yet. That starts on Thursday. Please do not subject me to this any earlier than I have to.
I don't find this horribly unlistenable. The stuff we played a little while ago, yeah, that was... This is...
No, it's
not terrible.
It's decent music unless you have generational trauma that goes along with it. Otherwise, it just sounds Eastern European, which is what it is. I believe this band, before you click through, said Romania on it. But it's, it can be beautiful music if you don't have a family history of trauma associated with that music for starvation and genocide.
Okay, so the only way I'm going to be able to find what I'm looking for is to go through my history, and now I've put all that stuff in the history. So it's going to take me a while. Are you familiar with Randy Rainbow?
I'm not.
Oh, okay. We'll do two things here.
By the way, for those on the audio-only podcast who keep hearing random clicks from my end, I am drinking out of a travel mug that has a sippy hole that clicks shut and open. And for those of you who are watching on the live stream, I'm drinking lemongrass tea. I have long found a problem in the winter with keeping my tea warm as long as I need my tea to stay warm, and Contigo travel mugs are the solution. I have tried Yeti. Yeti keeps it too warm. There is such a thing. I have tried Thermos. Thermos does not keep it warm enough. Contigo, whatever magic they do with their double-walled insulation, keeps it exactly warm enough, but lets it cool down also so that you're not just drinking boiling water straight down your throat.
Postmodern Jukebox is who I'm thinking of. And this... what the heck?
Because you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass,
no trouble. I'm all about that bass. Oh, look at them. They just took her song and are singing it themselves.
Yeah. So this is 40izing a modern song.
I mean,
only 70 million views.
40 eyes to begin with.
Okay.
Ain't no magazines working the Photoshop. It hasn't been changed terribly much. And the name of the singer has just immediately fled my mind, but I like her stuff. I can sing that, and I can sing Title.
Yes, and if you'd asked me without asking me, I could have told you who did it, but now I can't remember either. But I can find out.
Give me that title. Oh, give me that title. Oh, give me that title. Oh, give me that title.
Meghan Trainor.
Meghan Trainor.
And I want to say that I remembered that name before I came up with it.
Hey, now don't call me a friend. If I hear that word again, you will never get the chance to see me naked in your bed. I know that girls ain't hard to find, and if you think you want to try, please consider this an invitation to kiss my ass goodbye. Give me that title. Oh, 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 I cannot do the rap part, though.
You can't. I don't recognize that song. That
is Meghan Trainor's Title.
Yeah. For those who would never hear either one, the postmodern jukebox version, this, I guess, will be her.
And for those who don't know, the title she's looking for is Girlfriend.
I guess you're right. That is a little 40ized, just as it started.
Yeah, the song was already really in that genre.
I ain't no size 2, but I can shake it like I'm supposed to do.
Okay, so we are going to get, sorry, I keep purplizing you. We're going to get so monetized, I don't mind, because no one's going to make any money from this, and they stick an ad in front of it, I don't care. The takedowns are what bothers me, because this is all...
This modern jukebox went for the low-hanging fruit. I salute you.
Yeah,
I
well,
salute you.
They do
Don't
that.
work harder than you have to.
They do that to a lot of songs, and they're very good. So let me get to a little Randy Rainbow, because you really need to know about Randy Rainbow. Somebody posted it on my wall some time ago, and I had never heard anything from him before, and so I went and looked. So here's
For those who are on the audio-only podcast, not only does the purplizing button purplize things, but it makes anything white glow abnormally.
I purplized again.
Very funny to do. If you get a chance, do try and pull up this episode on your computer screen and then zoom ahead to like about this timestamp, but like 2 minutes before I'm speaking, and watch what Gary does to himself.
Yeah, this is it. Here, I'll purplize anything that was left on the screen. Okay, so Randy Rainbow is very prolific. He's a gay guy in New York, and he started doing this, I don't know, a decade ago or so, doing his own parodies and versions of songs. Lately, they've been a lot about Trump, and I read an article that interviewed him maybe a year ago, but I think he's probably still doing things about the same way. He records everything himself. He edits everything himself. He does it all in his apartment in, maybe it was Brooklyn or Bronx or someplace in New York. And so I think you're going to be impressed, and you'll say, why had I never heard of any Randy Rainbow before?
A historic moment in this election. We can now project the winner of the presidential race.
Bless this day, glorious and grand. Donald just got canned, yet still somehow he divides as he hides away.
He's a very good singer, very talented.
And it looks like White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany is about to hold a briefing. Let's listen in. Kayleigh, hi. It's been over a week since Joe Biden won the election, and the president has yet to concede or even acknowledge the results, which poses a threat to our safety.
This is not my favorite one of his, but it's okay.
Pardon me, is everybody here? Because if everybody's here, I want to thank you all for coming to the White House, and I wish that I could tell you where we're at, with national security and stuff, but we're not interested in that. So if you're looking for concessions, there's some peanuts in the lobby, but the president's not budging because he's only just a baby, so I thank you all. And to answer your question, we're just thrilled Donald won the election. Don't tell Donald he's not reelected today. Okay?
Bless this troll, curled up in...
Okay, so I'm going to put a hold on that and see what you think about Randy Rainbow so far.
I like him. I like parody songs. I like Weird Al. I was looking over at my musical collection, and I can't get there from here without unplugging, but I have a CD of a woman who did a whole bunch of really fun parody stuff too. I actually bought her CD. Not that I have a CD player to put said CD in, but I own the CD anyway. And I would like to encourage content creators who like to have merch to maybe just have a way for us to give you money that doesn't involve buying a thing we can't use. And yeah, I like what he did.
Okay.
For those of you who are on the audio only podcast, he used a lot of green screen and costumes and stuff to really pull off his characters. And that, I think, he's a good singer.
Very good.
And that's true. But that, I think, was the real additional something, the lagniappe, the extra spice that he brought to his performance art that just made it delectable.
So I see two things that I'm going to play from him now. And one is my absolute favorite thing he's ever done. And the other is just because it's now amazingly appropriate.
Because you know he's all about his bass, no feelings. He's all about his bass and his own self.
Now you can tell why
Man, he did the right thing. That song.
Appealing to only just his bass. Yeah, it's pretty clear who the schmuck is talking to, and I can guarantee it's not to me or you. Whatever happens, he's got just one response. He says what they think to get what he wants. Why he's still talking about all the travel bans. I know it's hard to fathom, but he's still got lots of fans.
I figured out a way to get your reaction picture in his picture in the same shot.
White supremacists and Russian Twitter bots. You know, Obama, he told me he loved me no matter what.
Right. He's shooting all this stuff in his apartment.
Don't settle for what you got. Also, look behind you if you're sitting.
Taught himself how to do Adobe editing.
Yeah, it's green screen. It's beautiful. It's well done.
This is also technically not the hardest thing in the world to do, but a lot of work.
He's all about his bass, and it's real distracting.
And then the lyrics are also clever.
And it's reductive.
It is. Yeah, he not only filked a song. Filk is when you replace the lyrics with some parody lyrics from something else. He not only filked the song, but he can sing the song, but he can put together costumes and put his camera on a tripod for some green screen. He's figured out the video editing.
Okay.
He's a one-man shop.
Here's my favorite.
You got a desperate waitress character based on an indie film starring Kerry Russell, stuck with a deadbeat husband
particular
selling
song, for those of
dozens
you who
of
don't know,
tiny
is
pies at
Hamilton, that he's
intermission.
parodying.
She does her hot physician. The Competition, a rock and roll collaborator and manipulator who decides to educate Sir Andrew Lloyd as the creator with lyrics by Glenn Slater. It's on later.
He's added his own lyrics to it, but wait till a twist.
And over at the court, you got a show with lots of heart and lots of really pretty music by that legend Steve Martin, set in North Carolina. Wait, I probably shouldn't spoil it. Don't worry, though. It's not about their laws about the toilet. Then a show about a show and how it got up on its legs. Days of the Depression with
we're not at the twist yet. There's going to be a twist.
And full of Tony winning and beloved Broadway regs. The show is so hot it got Audra McDonald pregs. Well, the Tonys announced that because these shows are swell, they're all nominated this year, and everyone's like, hell yeah, I gotta write a speech and buy a dress. And I'm like, well, there's actually something that I should probably tell you. Sorry, you're not Hamilton.
There's the twist.
Sucks that you're not Hamilton. 'Cause there's a million Tonys you could win, but you won't win. You're not Hamilton. So I called up the nominees, and this is what I told them. Just
Randy, I feel a little sad. Sorry about playing most of your song, maybe all of it here.
I'm nominated for a play. I said, Frank, shut up. You're going to lose to Hamilton anyway. Don't want to dishearten you, Steve Martin and Edie Brickell. Your score is gorgeous, but you're unfortunately no Lin-Manuel. Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber, your show is so much fun. And listen, Sarah Bareilles, don't be jealous. You're just not Hamilton. No Tony Award for Jessica Lange, who is brilliant in Long Day's Journey. None for Megan Michelle or Jane How to Shell or Meredith Baxter Burney. None for Rita or Tom or for me or your mom, because your mother's not in Hamilton. Your mother's not in Hamilton. Don't show up on the 12th unless you're Jonathan Groff, because they've got 16 nominations, but 16 is not enough. So if you won a Tony last year, you know what you should do? Give it back so that Hamilton can have those Tonys too.
This is hashtag Return It to Hamilton.
Can have your Tony too. Michael Cerverus. So that Hamilton can have your Tony too. Give it back. Helen Mirren. Hamilton can have your Tony too. Give it back. Hashtag give it back for Ham. Let's make it a thing. They picked up every accolade and honor in their path and got so many nominations that it's hard for me to fathom. And there's lots of Tonys to be won, but no one else can have them. Hamilton Best Musical. Hamilton Best Play, Hamilton Best Revival of a musical and a play. Write in Hamilton when you vote. Oh, and hey, Angela Lansbury, give your Tonys to Hamilton. There's so many Tonys you can win. Oh, but hey. Sorry, you're not Hamilton. Hashtag give it back for Ham.
Okay.
With
So
the falling down of my backdrop for the second time and the clock just about to strike 6, I'm going to call it.
all right. What did you think about that?
I think he's good. He's right up my alley. This is the kind of stuff I like.
Okay. So you
I
had
will
never heard
add
of him
him-
before, and
I
now
will add him to my Pandora channel that I have been training for the past 20 years to play what I want to hear.
excellent. Okay, I'm Gary Pierce. It still says Activish. That's left over. I always forget to change my own. You are Nanny Jen
Yep. Of Nanny Cast, which
of
does
Nanny
not have
Cast
a video.
fame.
Yeah. It does not have a video component, so my backdrop falling is not a problem if
Yeah.
you listen to Nanny Cast. If you are a nanny, listen. If you're not a nanny, don't listen. If you're considering employing a nanny, probably should listen. Go through our back archives too. If you're considering employing a nanny, there's stuff in there you probably want a heads up on before you find yourself in hot water.
How do you have that backdrop secured? Not well enough. That like taped?
Well, now it's fell from the other side.
Yeah. Okay. Technology to work on. This show has been Next Jenna-ration. You know, I was going to ask Jenna, people who must have made that comment about her name before. But
I'm sure that she has gotten everything.
yeah,
I'm
next
sure she's
Jenna.
also gotten the run. Well, no, she would be a Jenna, not a Jenny. As a Jenny, I got the run, Forrest, run, but Jenny. When I was younger.
Yeah, and we don't want to do any Run Forest runs because we're sick of those signs.
Well,
And
I'm glad that he did not succeed.
He did not win. He's not Hamilton either.
He ran again. You know, if somebody asked him the question, "Hey, how you feeling? You going to run for this office again the next time around?" He would have answered yes, because he did. He has now lost twice. It's time for him to stop.
Do we term limit our governors?
Yes.
Okay, so Cooper's out, no matter
Yep.
what next time.
Yeah.
So he might run again.
He can go. So we term limit him in succession, but not in total. So that's why Jim Hunt was constantly bouncing back and forth, because he did his term limit. He bopped out for a term, popped back in.
Okay, so you can go 2 terms and 1 out, and then
Yep.
back. Oh, interesting way to do it. Episode 125, December 6th, 2020. And I think we can go back to our original. We don't have to do the under. We don't have to do the... Although that was really cute when you did that. You remember what...
My mic will pick it up.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. The audience remembers what we're talking about. Oh, look at all the Randy Rainbow stuff that he's got. Tons and tons of it. You're going to be enjoying Randy Rainbow for hours and hours and hours. That is it for this episode of The Triangle Talk Show. Over and
out.
Boom.
Did the fart sound carry? No.
Well, it wasn't resonant. It was more hissy.
No, I can't. There we go.
That was. Oh, did you hear the Rudy? What's his name?
Rudy Giuliani got COVID?
No, he got COVID. But did you hear his fart?
No.
We have to stay on the air just a little bit longer.
Was it a 10 out of 10? Because where I work, we rate farts and burps, and everybody's aiming for a 10. Most people end up at a 2.
Hang on. Just take a moment. Okay. Well, actually, I want it from YouTube. Because otherwise I got to go through a ton of waiting for stuff.
Ooh. Ooh, I have something for our next show.
Always good to have something for the next show. By the way, next weekend, in theory, we're not here.
It's because it's Hanukkah.
Theory.
I got to be with family.
Yeah, and also I'm going to be somewhere up in the mountains. Okay, let's give this a try.
Welcome to the Tonight Show, everyone.
No, I'm just going to take us down.
Here we are. Let's get to the news.
That. Somebody give me this.
Well, I will ask that he be disciplined for that. First of
I was a little. So.
No. Oh man, that's so bad. Just a little.
No,
there.
that was a 2. It was maybe even a 1.
Yeah.
What kind of fart is that nonsense? No, absolutely.
He was at a hearing and he just snuck it out. Just barely.
No. My great grandfather, or my great grandfather Harry, not to be confused with somebody of the generation that would be my great grandfather Harry. My great grandfather Harry used to always say, "It is better to belch the belch and bear the shame than squelch the belch and bear the pain."
Yeah, I will admit that I am getting old enough that it's not possible to just make all of them discreet. They just happen.
It is better to belch the belch and bear the shame than squelch the belch and bear the pain. And you know what? If you fart and then you go, "Yeah, that was me. 10 out of 10. Woo!"
Okay, let's try this one more time, see if we can get it better.
single witness. Just like you, they don't want to know you is they didn't bother to interview a single witness.
Well, put in
answer
context.
that I gave you is they didn't bother to interview a single witness. Just like
a single witness that almost has context to it. Okay. Jen's got to go. I get to hit the triangle one more time. And make the picture go poof. See ya next 2 weeks. See you in 2 weeks. If that's not, is that right on top of Christmas? I don't know. We'll look at the calendar. Bye, everybody.